You're listening to Nectar, sweet musings for your creative soul. And now your host, Stacey Maney.
I just want to take a moment before we jump into the episode today and dedicate it to anyone who is experiencing anything that feels off with their health or their body or their mind. The last few years have been so intense, and it was arguably intense before then too. And, it takes a toll on our physical bodies. It takes a toll on our mental health. And I don't take any of these things lightly. We're going to dive into some of these things in this episode. And, this is all root chakra energy, vibrations that we're talking about. Even as I was replaying it, getting everything together, I could feel like my stomach in some of the moments of what we were talking about. It was like turning and just feeling uncomfortable. And so I just invite you to be really gentle with yourself and tender as you listen to this episode, because Amy Stein is the guest today, and she shares her beautiful story about her process healing and what happened to her, how she, the things that she learned to support her body that she wasn't getting offered inside the traditional medical system, right? Like the doctors didn't have answers for what was happening in her body. And so she went on this journey to find the root of those issues that were coming up. I've been going through my own journey with healing and well-being. I think we all are. But if there's one thing that I would love for you to take away from this episode, there's no right or wrong when it comes to healing. No right or wrong. And most of the times our healing involves a whole community of people, right? It involves maybe doctors, really close friends. For me, I found this amazing functional medicine woman, and she's been a huge part of my healing journey. And I just want you to know and be reminded that you can create your own healing. We can create anything, right? And healing might be one of the scariest things to create, because it feels life or death, right? And so I just want you to take a moment and get grounded before you listen to this conversation. And just know that, our whole message here, spoiler alert, is that healing is a unique journey. And so however it lands, like just maybe think of it as an invitation to get more support for yourself and to really dive inward and listen to what messages your body has for you. And I will read our fun little medical disclaimer here, just because we are speaking about medical things, and just to reiterate that I am not a medical professional, and the information that I share and Amy Stein shares should not be considered as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, right? Still go to the doctor and get that perspective, get that, all of the tools and equipment they have access to. And it's not something we need to cut out. It's something that we can work with and more in collaboration with. And always, like I was saying, seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you might have regarding a medical condition, or even any like alternative medical options you want to try. There's nothing wrong with running it by them beforehand. It's probably very helpful to do that. And so maybe grab a notebook or something that you can take notes, because Amy shares so much valuable information. And we will have links to all of the things we reference in this conversation connected to this video. And just stay with yourself, stay present in your body, and be gentle as you listen to these messages and hear her story. I am here with Amy, and Amy, there's so much, like, I feel like we could have 10 episodes around this discussion, but let me just start by saying that, I'm so happy that you're here on the show, because you are a beautiful example of what's possible with us, like what we can create. We can create our own healing. It's not just creating a painting or a song. We actually have the ability to work with the earth and our bodies and create healing in our life. And just like when you're creating art or you're doing intuitive art, it looks very different than what we're surrounded by right now. And it can feel very, very scary to take that journey. So I just wanted to start there, and maybe would you feel free to introduce yourself and maybe your journey that has brought you here.
I mean, you said it exactly what it is, right? We're all unique. We all have unique experiences. It looks different for all of us, right? Just like a painting does, just like a poem, a song. We all have the ability to tap into that innate wisdom, but we're not taught about it, right? So just like everybody else, I grew up in this paradigm that you have this belief system that is ingrained in you. It's inherited. You get it by age 7. Bruce Lipton talks about it in his book, Biology of Belief, in that we're taught to be a certain way, right? Things are supposed to look a certain way. We live in a dualistic society. It's very black and white. There is no gray. It's good or bad. Being different is not something that's revered, right? You have to fit in, you have to belong. There's safety in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not taught like how the body is designed. We're not taught how the body works. We're taught that if the body is giving you symptoms, there's
Mm-hmm.
something wrong, it's broken. You go to the doctor and they'll fix you.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was something that I learned from a very young age was actually not true, in that ever since I can remember, I had symptoms, messages from my body that something was wrong. And my parents would bring me to the doctor, and the doctor would be like, we can't find anything, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
labs look okay. We can't figure it out. Your daughter's just too sensitive. She doesn't know how to deal with anxiety. She doesn't know how to deal with stress. She just needs to buck up. She needs to, grow a thicker skin. She needs to be stronger. And so the message that I heard from ever since I was little was, you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
You're weak. There's something
Mm-hmm.
wrong with you. You're broken. You're not like everybody else, because I could feel things that I couldn't see. And in our society, we're taught if you can't see it, it's not real.
Yes.
Right? Like it doesn't exist. But the thing is that everything that exists around us is made of energy, things you can see and things you can't see. But again, we're not taught this in school, right? Like this is not something that is actually introduced to us. So it's a very foreign concept, and it's something that we don't understand. And so since we don't understand it, it's different. It's immediately bad. It's labeled as bad, right? And we push it aside, and it can't do anything for us. And so I struggled with my health my whole life. And it's something that at times I could kind of live with it, right? Like I still got through, but I conform myself to what society expected to be, right? Like the good girl who got good grades and, did the things. And then when I would act out to get attention, because my body was telling me this did not feel right the way I was living, I was immediately shut down. Like, that's not how we do things, right? Like you were punished. And so there's this whole paradigm of this belief system of you have to live your life a certain way in order to be accepted, in order to be labeled as good, in order to, go with the flow of things and how things are. It creates this really system of people feeling like they don't belong, of people feeling like there's something wrong with them, of people feeling like they're broken. And so the reason I'm doing these interviews is to let people know that they're not broken. The system is broken, not you.
Ooh, chills. Yes, I know. I find myself saying that a lot too. You are not broken. That there's blockages, there's things, there's disharmony in your body, but it's not broken. Like the fact that you are feeling those things, is a strength. It is such a strength, and that sensitivity is actually power. I'm just thinking as you're talking, the way that everything is set up right now, we are burning ourselves out. We are anxious and stressed. And I don't even like saying those things because I feel like it makes it more true. But like if you're following the daily like 9 to 5, 40-hour work week, all of the things, it's leading to burnout. It's leading to dis-ease, right? Like dis-ease in the body. And then we're not taught how to bring that back in harmony, or we're not, I don't even think we're told that we have the power to do that.
Exactly. We're not taught that the body is designed to heal, right? We're not taught how the body works. It's just, it's all these different parts. And when they're broken, we piece them out to different doctors, right? So if you have GI issues, you go see the GI specialist. If you have neurology issues, you see a neurologist. If you have joint issues, you see a rheumatologist. The issue in that is that no one is looking at the body as a whole. And even if you see a doctor, like a functional practitioner who looks at the body as a whole, there's still so many complex ideas about the body that we don't understand. And modern day medicine does not address them, and it does not actually fix the root cause, right? It
Right.
just is a band-aid for the symptoms, right? So I'm going to give you this pill, you're going to have this surgery, you're going to have this procedure, we're going to cut out that part of you. So destructive and harmful to the body. It actually creates another level of trauma in the body. And that's another thing that's not talked about in modern day medicine is the idea of trauma, right? And that we're all exposed to trauma, whether it's big T trauma, right? Death, divorce, abuse, or little T trauma, traffic. You stub your toe, like that's trauma, right? But it's not your ideologically. Again, this is where the belief system keeps us stuck, is the body has its own way of working and processing out how it responds to a stressor. That's trauma, the response to the stressor. It's not the stressor. It's not the stubbing the toe. It's how your body responds to it. And because we're not taught how this works, instead, we're taught not to feel our emotions, not to feel our sensations. We're taught to just push everything down, to numb out, to dissociate. It creates, like you said, a whole nother level of disconnection, a whole nother level of overwhelm, of disease, of imbalance in the body. So like my dog just before was processing something out, and I kept like, what are you doing? You know, she was like rolling around and whatnot, right? So she's processing out whatever was just going on with her. We
Yes.
don't do that.
Yes.
We don't do that because it looks weird, right? It looks funny. Oh, we don't want to look strange. We don't want to be ostracized as an outsider. So we just put it in and we'll just keep pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down. But by doing that, you're compacting the energy because energy wants to flow, energy wants to move. And emotion is just energy in motion. It's just the body telling you, hey, you need to pay attention to this. There's something coming up over here. But because we don't do that, we create more stuck energy in the body, which leads to disease, leads to illness, leads to chronic pain. So for me, when I look to Mother Earth as an example, I saw how she was resilient. I saw how she would move. She would bend. She didn't react. She responds, right? Like she doesn't do anything. We think she does things erratically, but she doesn't. There is a plan. There is a purpose. We just don't understand it because we're so disconnected from it because we revere technology.
Yes.
We don't revere Mother Earth. We don't revere that innate wisdom that exists there. And that innate wisdom also exists within us.
Yeah. I've always been so connected to nature. And even in design school, I remember thinking like, why don't we just study nature and look at the designs that are happening there? And yes, acknowledge that we only see the tip of the iceberg with what's happening here. And I think that's why I get frustrated with some of the systems because we march forward with such certainty. Like we understand everything and we're going to go in and mess with this little part here, and I just wish we were more reverent to the incredible design of nature. And like you have been doing, working with that, and maybe you could speak to like how you work with Mother Nature to heal your body and a little bit of your process, because I feel like that's where the magic is. And there's like a whole new level of support and power available.
Right. And that's the thing. So people for thousands of years in traditional healing systems have revered Mother Earth, have worked with Mother Earth, have respected her wisdom, and have in turn created rituals around it. But in our society, we don't do that, right? Because we don't respect that. It doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem valid. It's not logical. So we label that as woo-woo.
Yeah.
That's strange, right? So when it got to the point where, I was on this merry-go-round of all these doctors, and I live in New York, so you throw a rock, you hit a doctor. Like there is no lack of doctors, right? And I saw all the top specialists and they were failing me. I was dying. I was not getting better. I was doing what they told me to do. And something told me like, this is not the answer, right? And again, I couldn't see what was telling me because we're taught not to trust our intuition because you can't see it. It's not real, but it exists. And that intuition is your inner wisdom. It's your inner guidance. It's your connection to whatever your higher power is. For me, that's Mother Gaia. That's Mother Earth, right?
Right.
So like you, I was always connected to nature as a child. So I moved back to that. How could I learn more about what was growing around me and how could I implement it more into my life, right? So what I began to discover in my introduction to plant medicine is that every single plant, including the weeds, most importantly the weeds, have medicinal and nutritional benefit. I was like, wow, all these things that are growing, things that I didn't even plant by design,
Yes,
are here to help me. That's fascinating. Tell me more. And so I dived into that whole rabbit hole of plant medicine and learning, Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, and understanding how all these herbs and plants have these constitutions that make them different, and they do different things, just like our own bodies, right? They're all unique. They all have unique purposes, right?
Mhm.
So it's not this allopathic approach of you have a migraine, you take this medication, right? It's, well, why do you have the migraine, right? Like,
Right.
what is your imbalance, and how can you bring your body back into balance by using these plants and
Mhm.
respecting and understanding how they can balance you personally, right? Not like, oh, I have a headache, give me peppermint essential oil. That doesn't work. That's not
Mhm.
how we do it, right? We understand how our body is working, what the signs and messages it's representing. So I began like playing around with it. Like my husband called me a mad scientist. Like I started,
Yes.
foraging, like I was foraging weeds from my backyard. And he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "We're gonna eat these." He's like, "I'm not
Right.
eating that." And I'm like, "I'm gonna put it in my smoothie." And
Right.
that thing, like, disclaimer, you have to properly know how to forage. So the
Mhm.
library was my best friend. It still is. Like I got
Mhm.
all my books for free. And whatever books I found really helpful that I thought like I could use these a lot, I bought them then. Right. So
Wow.
you don't have to go out and like buy 100 books.
Mhm.
Use the resources, find someone who does foraging in your area. It's
Yes.
becoming more popular, right?
Yes.
They forage in Manhattan. I personally would not forage in Manhattan, but people do
Mhm.
it in Central
Mhm.
Park, right? So as long as the area is not sprayed, as long as you're not putting chemicals on, again, we live in a society that there is chemicals being sprayed, even if you're
Right.
not directly spraying them, right? So be mindful of that. But if it's not a polluted area, if it's not close to a roadway, like, so I forage from my backyard because we
Mhm.
don't spray anything again, but we have animals. So like I'm cognizant of where the animals go. I'm not going to forage
Right.
over there, right?
That's yes,
So
good
like,
point.
yeah, like it's got like a common sense aspect too, but these are all ideas that
Mhm.
are foreign to us now, but this is how we live. As long as humans roams the earth, they
Right.
use plants for medicine and food. And the
Mhm.
people that were highly sensitive, like Stacy and I, we were the shamans, we were the medicine women, we were the ones that knew like weather was moving in, right? Or the animals were moving, or this was a safe area to be, or that plant was safe to eat, right? So this wisdom has been lost, but you
Mhm.
can get it back. You can, no one can take your education from you. No
Yeah.
one can take what you learn from you. You can
Mhm.
empower yourself by educating yourself.
Yeah. I know. I my body is like rocking as you're talking. Like I almost feel I feel emotional because there is a wisdom so deep in us, and it can feel terrifying to choose to like go with that instead of like a doctor's opinion or something.
Mhm.
And and it's like we have all these tools available within us and around us that it just feels like this waking up, when we start to look within our bodies and go back to this. I keep hearing the word like primal, like it's a
Mhm.
primal way of being. We are wild creatures, like
Mhm.
I just did this herbal class, like you were saying, and it was of herbal infusions. I've been working with those, which are powerful. And the lady, she started by saying, like, well, here's the plants in this area that we should be eating, and working with them. Like, that is so obvious, but I never thought, to just look at the
Right.
plants in this area.
Right.
It's that disconnect again.
Yeah.
So I
I'm
love
get-
that.
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like these skills were always taught, right? They were always
Mhm.
passed down, right? So the medicine woman had someone in the tribe that either was a child of theirs or a fam, whatever, they then taught it to, right? It was a passed down wisdom, and then that wisdom was explored and that wisdom was expanded. And
Mhm.
so it's something that's becoming popular now,
Yes.
but it's not always practiced properly.
Agreed.
So it's, again, we all have this animal energy that you spoke of. So it's
Mhm.
feeling with your animal energy. Like, is this person really authentic?
Yes.
Are they
Mhm.
walking the walk? Are they talking the talk? Are they doing this safely? Are
Mhm.
they educating rather than just, hey, take this plant for this condition, right?
Right.
So I always, when people tell me like, this are the things that going on with me physically, I say 9 times out of 10, if I were to come over to your house, I'd be able to find the plants that would help you with that condition, right?
Wow.
Because I know, because I've learned, because it's, 8, 9 years of learning and that's the thing, like the herbalism trainings that I've done, you would start out with like 5 plants and you intimately get to know those 5 plants. And the
Mhm.
more that you do it and the more that you connect to that inner wisdom that exists within you,
Mm-hmm.
rather than looking externally for it in social media, to the news, to the politicians, to big pharma, big ag. Those people don't have your best interest at heart, right? Like, it's all about money. So, but when you can look to something that is revered, like Mother Earth, or your connection to Source, Spirit, God, Allah, whatever that may be, it will guide you on the right path for you. And so the
Mm-hmm.
plants will talk to me. They'll be like,
Yes.
hey, put us together, make this balm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, put us together, make this tincture for this issue. And
Mm-hmm.
so this morning, like in my practice of breathwork and stuff and energy medicine, like I was like, I gotta make a fatigue one because my fatigue has been really bad the past month.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm gonna do this afternoon. Like, I'm gonna commune with the plants, like, hey, who wants to be in this
Yes.
formula? Who is
Yes.
going to best step up for me for this
Mm-hmm.
situation? And so it sounds really crazy, but it's 5,000 years of science, right? Like
Right.
traditional Chinese medicine, energy medicine, they studied all of the things they talked about for thousands of years. Modern day science is only just catching up to now.
Mm.
And that's crazy if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, in that modern day science is based upon you being sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's a broken system that wants you to stay sick because that's how it makes money. And
Right.
it's a standardized system that was created by John D. Rockefeller for him to make more money in oil, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to standardize all the medical schools. I'm going to kick out the naturopaths. I'm going to kick out the acupuncturists. I'm going to kick out the homeopaths.
Wow.
And we're going to standardize care and standardize education. Everyone's going to learn the exact same thing. And that's it. And when you do things like that, one, you strip the beauty,
Mm-hmm.
but you also strip the education, the empowerment. You strip the freedom from it because everyone's so scared they have to do what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can find that courage, right, like to be a little rebellious,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with being a rebel. Like, I wear that name tag proudly, right?
Right.
Not everybody's okay with that, but it's the awareness of, how am I participating in my life? Is it a way that is serving me, or
Mm-hmm.
is it a way that's keeping me stuck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of what's coming up too. I saw this quote the other day. It was like, you're calling into your next level of awakening, your next level of growth, it's not a gentle whisper, it's like a splinter in your toe. And that's what I think about with the health issues that are coming up in the world right now. Like, I know for me, my thyroid, I'm very focused on that right now and getting that back in balance. And it was like this cut it out kind of approach that I was told to do. And it's like, no, I just had two babies, I'm coming into this next level of expression with my creative voice. Like, this is all so connected to all these things that I'm not just going to chop something out right now. I'm going to sit with it, do like the blood work and everything and get tests, but like then follow. To me, it's like one step at a time. I keep getting the next step and the next step. And it was like the second I said like no to the doctor, I want to try this other thing first. I just felt like this domino like unfolding of the path before me. And it's so scary to walk that path. It's so scary. But I just feel in my gut that that is the path for me and for my body. And my body is like, it's getting louder the more I listen. And the communication is getting easier. And so I guess I just want to share that for anyone that's feeling that disharmony or that imbalance in their body. And it can be really scary when you have these health issues come up. I just want to bring that in, like that sensitivity to how intense that is and the bravery it takes to then move forward. But like exactly what you're saying, Amy, like find the people that can support you. And it's crazy because I swear they just come into your life then all of a sudden, like when you're working in this way.
Yeah.
So yeah, to make sure you have the support you need going on this journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's important, right? Trust your gut. Like, that's a saying that's been around for a really long time, but we
Mm.
don't. We trust the mind. But the
Mm,
mind is just simply part of the body.
interesting.
And the mind, like you said, the reference, the iceberg, that's the mind. The mind is just the tip of the
I
iceberg.
agree. Exactly. Yes,
And
exactly.
like, and the subconscious is actually what rules the body. So
Yes.
that's what keeps you safe, right? So the body's designed to heal, but it's also designed to keep you safe. So when we try to make these big changes, whether that's with our health, whether that's in a life in another way, the body's like, oh my God, we're going to die. Don't do that, right? And it brings you back into that old belief system because that feels safe because that's what you know.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can listen to the body and take those small actionable steps that
Mm-hmm.
feel less scary, they feel less overwhelming, then the body shows up, the universe shows up and shows you the way. Like, here's the breadcrumbs, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, I deviated off the yellow brick road and everyone around me, my family, my friends were like, you're crazy. You're going to die.
Yes.
I'm like, no, I think I'm going to live if I
Same.
get off this path.
Same.
Because I think if I stay on this path, I'm going to die.
Yes.
And like, I'm not prepared to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've made my peace with it. And so I'll die on my own terms rather than someone else guinea pigging me that doesn't live in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important to remember that we're all unique. We all have unique experiences. But at the end of the day, you're the one that lives in your body, right? So I'm never
Mm-hmm.
going to tell somebody like, don't go to the doctor. I don't
Agreed.
advocate for that,
Same.
but I advocate for you choosing what's best for you.
Yes.
And there are doctors who are more open to,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not traditionally on the traditional Western medicine model. They're not going to be open because they don't know. They just don't know. And they don't have the time to find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the system is broken.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find people, even if they didn't go to medical school, who you feel safe with in your body,
Mm-hmm.
and keep, again, no one can do the work for you. You have to do it for yourself. Like
Right.
I say all the time, I'm not fully healed. I'll never be fully healed because I'm in this physical body and this is what I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like before I came into this physical body, my soul was like, hey, we want a rough ride. Like these are the lessons we need to learn.
A lot to learn. Yeah, there's a lot to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's no diploma for life, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
once you're in this physical body, you're in this physical body and the things that are coming up for you. Right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
happening to you, it's happening for you. And that's a really hard pill to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, I didn't do this to myself, but you did. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you've constantly made these choices, whether or not you remember or not. And that's really hard to accept. But at the same
Yeah.
time, if we understand how the body is designed, in that, again, we're in this broken system, we have this broken belief system, and the body's just trying to keep us safe. And when we express a need and that need is not met, our protector is formed because the body's like, oh, we don't want that to happen again. So we're going to
Mm-hmm.
form this protector. And every time something looks similar as an event to what happened when we were 3, this protector is going to come on board. It's like the movie Inside Out is a great example of that. Like you can see little girl's brain, you can see all of her emotions. Those are her protectors, right? So she gets angry, anger
Mm-hmm.
comes in. Okay. So, we have them. There's the victim, there's the people pleaser, there's the codependent, there's the addict, there's the person that numbs out, there's the person that dissociates, there's the aspect of the person who is the blamer, there's the
Mm-hmm.
aggressor, there's the like there's like 25 of them, right? And so some of us have aspects of all of them, and some of us have aspects that are of them that are more predominant than the others, right? So like for me, I'm an aggressor because I was bullied a lot of my life for not, following the program. So
Mm-hmm.
now I will aggress back against you because you're not going to bully me as an adult, right? But the problem is these protectors kept us safe as children,
Mm.
but they keep us stuck as adults.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's like making that shift over to being the adult that's with that child, like, and I fight with that every day. I'm like, okay, you're an adult, Stacey, like, be with this child part of yourself. But as the adult, that can be hard to step into sometimes.
Absolutely. And it's a practice, right? Like it's all a practice. It's a practice of being aware, of a practice of this is not going to feel good. Like I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Like healing is hard. Healing is really, really hard. And it looks like a scribbling of a 3-year-old did, right? Like there are like different colors. It is a whole jumbled mess. There's no start or end, right? Like it is just a big mess. And it's not linear. Like it's not like, oh, you do this protocol, then you're going to get better, right? And it doesn't work like that. But we've been taught that's how it's supposed to be. And so then when it doesn't work like that, we get angry. We blame ourselves. We get frustrated with the process and, oh, this isn't working. I must be broken. There's something wrong with me, right? We fall back into that programming. And that's the problem in that programming is reinforced. Oh, it didn't work. Come back when it gets worse, right? That's what doctor tell you. Take this medication now. Come back when it gets worse. We'll do the surgery. We'll do the procedure. We'll give you more of the medication. It doesn't address the root cause. Doesn't ask the body what's going on. And because the body doesn't recognize that, Pharmaceuticals are harmful to the body, right? It's another toxic chemical that we're putting on the body. So the body's going to give more symptoms because it's
Interesting.
screaming.
Right.
What are you doing? It's screaming now. Why are you doing more? I'm trying to give you messages, this way, and you're taking me in another different direction, pouring more fuel on the fire.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like a real, maybe one of your favorite steps or just a really powerful step to, when that's happening, when our bodies is telling us anything, how do you tune into your body and start to have that conversation, that dialogue?
My first suggestion for anybody is to examine the toxins you can control in your environment, because we live in
Ooh,
such a toxic world, and
interesting.
we don't realize like what we're exposed to, right? So the average person, before they leave the house, if they go out of their house to work, they put like 100 to 150 chemicals on their body, right? So it's like, that's laundry soap, that's your soap in the shower, that's your shampoo, that's your beauty products, that's your deodorant, that's your toothpaste. Like, it goes on and on and on. What you're
Wow.
washing your dishes with, what
Mhm.
you're cleaning your house with, all of those fragrances and the candles and the air fresheners, those are all chemicals that are harmful to the body. And
Mm,
so we just, again, it's part of our programming of like, oh, you don't want your house to smell this way, so light this candle. But you're
mhm,
actually causing more physical stress to the body. You're actually causing a lot of your own problems. So it's an awareness of, what am I putting in and on my body? The skin is the largest organ. It's also like a mindfulness of, what am I actually physically ingesting? Right?
mhm,
Like, I say eat real food. People are like, what does that mean? That means it's food that has an energetic component that's alive. So it's a vegetable that was grown in the ground.
mm,
It's a weed that you foraged from your backyard. It's an animal that was humanely raised and
mhm.
humanely slaughtered. It is something that does not come from a box, a bag, or a drive-through. Novel concept, right? Like,
Wow.
that sounds really hard,
It's
but
so
it's
simple
actually
though.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like really simple, right? It's really, like you said, it goes back to this primal idea of like, oh, I'm not expecting you to go out and hunt your food, right?
Mhm,
But you can find, I mean, I don't get my meat from the grocery store because that meat is not humanely raised. It's
mhm,
fed a lot of garbage. It's conventionally raised. It's fed crap and chemicals and all that stuff. So, I'm fortunate I have friends who are farmers and they raise their own meat and chickens, and that's where I get my meat from. Right? Like, I
mhm,
don't advocate for you going to eat a fake meat burger.
mhm.
It's all chemicals.
Right,
I don't
yeah.
care what anyone tells you. It's garbage. Like, it's not
Mhm.
good for you. Right.
Right.
But if you're going to make your own veggie burger, great. That's
Yes.
great. But
Agreed.
don't buy it in a box. Right. Like, so, like, it's this common sense idea, but we've been schooled out of it in
Right.
that we're always looking outside of ourselves for someone to tell us what to do.
Well, and so much needs to change, gets to change in our life if we are to really honor that, right? Like to make enough time to make meals, to go find the farmers in your community. But what I love about this is that like the more people that shift and work on creating their own healing, creating just a new way, which really isn't new at all, just going back
Mhm.
to the older way, right? And just creating this new way together, how it looks now in the modern world. And I just feel such a shift and like yeah, supporting farmers, supporting your farmers market and all of these things, the herbs. And I mean, you could even take it as far as like, exercising and being outside in nature. Like all of these components are just slowing down our lives. So we
Mhm.
have time to cook dinner and, to do these things. So I feel this really powerful movement happening. And it is extremely uncomfortable and unknown, but there's always so much joy and community on the other end. And I think that's what gets to come forward at this time is like this new level of creation, this new level of community, and like reinventing, bringing back these systems that we know have worked.
Right.
And
And that
yeah.
like change is the only constant. And the ebook we've included below for the listeners has 5 quick tips, right? It's about getting outside, it's about eating real food, it's about quieting the noise.
Mhm,
That's external and internal, right? I don't watch the news. I
mhm,
don't need to hear whatever they're saying because it's not real, right? And I don't need to know that. But people are like, "Oh my God, how can you not watch the news?" Because my sensitive system cannot handle that. I
mhm,
cannot handle the violence. I cannot handle the negativity. I
mhm.
know I live in this world that is not ideal, right? Like, we all chose to come here at this time to make the changes. Is
Agreed.
it easy? No. Is it,
Mhm,
it's going to be it's going to take a while to see these changes, right? But like you said, the idea of community, of finding people who are doing these things already, finding
Agreed.
people who have already walked the path and can offer
Mhm.
suggestions, right? Like, hey, read this book. Hey, listen to this podcast. Hey, I know this farmer.
Right.
Hey, I make my own herbal products, right? Like, you don't have to do it all yourself. I did
Mhm.
because, again, I needed to control as many of the aspects that I could because I would my sensitive system. And so, and it was cheaper to make like a lot of the cleaning products myself. And then I could know exactly what was in it, right? And so my husband wasn't down with it. Like he was like, this is crazy. Why can't we go to the store and buy X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, no, because there's greenwashing. And they'll say it's all natural, free and clear. It's not. Like
Mhm.
that just means nothing. It's there is a lot of chemicals. And so I invite people to check out the Environmental Working Group.
Mhm.
It's a nonprofit agency that rates all of the personal and cleaning products.
Oh,
And you
wow.
can, yeah, you can look up your stuff and see what it's rated.
We'll
It's
have to put
the,
a link to that.
yeah, the skin deep database. And so you can see like, what is my free and clear detergent rated? I'm guaranteeing you it's not rated well. And so then it will offer you suggestions. And so you don't have to do it all at once. Like I tell people, when your laundry soap runs out, you
Mhm.
go on the Environmental Working Group and you see which one is a better alternative,
Wow.
right? And so there's a lot more companies now who are doing it right.
Mhm.
And it's not as expensive as it was, but you still need to understand how to read labels.
Mhm.
That's huge. Like you need to understand how to read labels because anything that says fragrance is going to be bad for you. So it can say free and clear, all natural, and then it lists fragrance as an ingredient. That's poison. So
Mhm.
you don't want to use that, right?
Mhm.
So there it's not a one and done quick and dirty approach. Like there are layers to it, just like with
Mhm.
healing. It's
Agreed.
not a quick process. But when but it's something that when you make those changes to the toxins you can control, right? You filter the inside of your air because inside air is actually notoriously dirtier than outside air. You
Mhm.
filter your water. You know, we think we live in a society that has clean water. We don't. And
Mhm.
so when you can't control everything, right? Like I don't advocate for that because it's impossible. You can't. But there are a lot of things that are within your control.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful right there. I know it's a hard pill to swallow. It's like yeah, it's a lot to take in, but I agree. I love that just like one thing at a time, baby steps. And what's interesting to me is like I get on a momentum. Like there's a momentum that builds when I start feeling better and
Mhm.
experiencing these things. I mean, just working with herbs, like I've been doing these herbal infusions and it's a consciousness in me, like it's
Mhm.
mind blowing how powerful they are. But I had no idea.
Right?
You look at these things like, oh, it's just a plant. Here's medicine. It's so much more powerful. And it's like,
Mhm.
but then when you experience the two, it is two completely different things. So I love everything you're bringing in here. And so, yeah, if you want to, so that was your one free gift, right? Is that the 5 quick ways? Or no, that was
Yes.
the one.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
the
go
5 quick ways. Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, and that's the thing because the plants have an energetic component, right? There's a vibrational component because, like I said, everything is energy. So when we work with things that have a higher vibrational component, we actually ingest that energy. It creates a higher vibrational component in us. So you feel
Mm-hmm.
better. You feel
Mm-hmm.
better because their body recognizes it as medicine. It doesn't recognize pharmaceuticals. It doesn't recognize the over-counter drugs as medicine. It recognizes it as poison. And
Mm-hmm.
so it may numb the pain for a bit. The pain comes right back because the body knows the issue is not addressed. But when you work with the plants, it may take a little bit longer, but it addresses it at the root cause. It
Mm-hmm.
addresses the real issue, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I advocate for homeopathy all the time because it's an energetic vibrational medicine. It's a remedy in that it's created from every aspect of the earth. So whether it's from a naturally occurring metal or material, whether it's from an animal, a plant, an insect, it's heavily diluted to a potency. And it has, so like say I get a poison ivy rash,
Mm-hmm.
I take rust tux, which is the Latin name for poison ivy, because like balance is like. So that small amount of heavily diluted poison ivy in that homeopathic remedy is going to actually clear the rash from my body. So,
Oh.
like, yeah, and that goes back to the ancient Greeks. Like, this is not new idea.
I had no idea.
Yeah, but because it's cheap and effective, Big
Right.
Pharma doesn't want you to know about it. So they're trying to outlaw it in the United States.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
Yeah, so it's like really scary in that my choice of how I want to treat my family is being taken away from me because it's quick and
Yes.
effective and cheap.
Mhm.
And because I can do it myself. I don't
Mhm.
need to go to a doctor to do it.
Exactly.
But, you know, that's the harm in that is when we're always looking outside of ourselves to somebody else, another human who is flawed, to tell us what to do,
Mhm.
we lose a lot of ourselves. We lose that self-sovereignty. We lose that authenticity. We lose the integrity of
Mm.
listening and honoring our body because I could sit here and name the 1,001 things that I did, right? I couldn't even name them all because there's so many. But
Mhm.
I would never do that because what worked for me is not going to necessarily work for you. Yeah,
Mhm.
there are suggestions I can make that I think are broad suggestions for anybody. But when it comes to like actually figuring out your own healing journey, you have to do the work.
Mhm.
You have to show up for yourself
Mm.
because it's unique to you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's stepping into that creative role, right? It's like I am creating this. That's what,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm like, we'll probably have to have more conversations in the future. There's so much here. But this is so like this is such a good, I'd say broad, but we got
I was
detailed.
going to
So
say it's a good
it's like
overview. Yeah.
perfect. So yeah, your free gifts. Could you speak to your free gifts before we wrap up
Sure.
here?
So we already talked about, the 5 quick tips to get you back in connection with your body, right? And it's
Mhm.
getting outside, quieting the noise, so on and so forth. There's
Mhm.
also a journal I included that's a healing journal in that a lot of people will say I'm anxious, I'm overwhelmed, right? But there could be 7 different emotions behind that. But because we're not taught those emotions, we don't understand them. So
Mhm.
the healing journal includes a feeling wheel. So you can say, hey, this is what I'm actually
Mm,
experiencing.
like that?
And then the daily prompt is where do I feel this in my body? What's coming up for me,
Wow.
right? Like,
Mhm.
what is it? And rather than assigning judgment or blame, we're curious about it. What could this
Mhm.
mean? Right? Like Dr. Kim Durama, who's a big energy medicine practitioner, she says, what's right about this I'm not getting?
What does she
Rather than,
say? She's
she says, what's right about this that I'm not getting?
Oh,
So it
interesting.
reframes it. It changes your perspective on it. Like, oh, rather than I'm broken, what is
Wow.
my body trying to tell me?
Wow. Yeah,
What could you, right? Totally changes it, right? Yeah.
there's a strange moment of just like giving gratitude to the splinter in your toe, right? Like,
Right? Yeah.
thank you, Splinter, for
Right.
bringing
Thank you for
into this.
paying it, like pointing my
Yeah,
attention there because I was
yeah,
just trying to numb out and, keep doing my to-do list, which will never
right,
end. Right.
right.
It's
Yeah,
just always going to be there.
my thyroid stuff came up and it was like I had all these nutrient deficiencies, like insane. And I'm like, I'm sure it was from my 2 pregnancies, which were also very difficult. Like, I was sick the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. So it was like I would not have noticed otherwise. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as uncomfortable as it is, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful.
Well, because we're taught to plow through, right? We're taught to just
Mhm,
grin and bear it, keep
mhm,
going. You can't, especially as women, you got to take care of everybody else. You can't take care of yourself. That's selfish. It's
right.
not, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody. Because
Mhm,
if you're depleted, how can you provide for anybody else, right? So like I make sure that I'm resourced before I'm able to give to anybody else. So I resourced myself this morning for like 3 hours to do this interview, right? Because I wasn't feeling great. And so if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to show up authentically. I
mhm,
would just be grinning and bearing it. And I wouldn't be able to have integrity about this interview because I
mhm,
wouldn't be practicing what I advocate for. And so
mhm,
it's this idea of, again, like no one can tell you what's going to work best for you. So I've also included an ebook of the 7 most important discoveries from my decade plus long healing journey that I'm still
mhm.
on, right?
Wow.
And like these are discoveries that people don't tell you about. It's not you're gonna be found in the books. It's like I had to figure this out on my own, right?
Mhm,
And it's 12, 13 years of research. And so I think it's important to understand that it doesn't look the same for everybody.
mhm,
It's not black and white, it's very gray. And
mhm.
it's okay to be in the gray. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I think that's where the magic is.
Yeah.
Ah, that's a beautiful note to end on. I don't want to end, but yes, I think we'll have more conversations down the road. Oh my goodness, yes, I'll make sure we have links to all of those very generous gifts. And yeah, I hope this seems like just the beginning. So thank you so much, Amy.
Thanks, Stacy.
If you love what Amy shared and you want to hear more, you can sign up for those free gifts that she offered. And she's also offering a live workshop series. It's all happening in one day. There's 3 1-hour workshops, and you'll learn how to heal yourself. And so if you're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or you are dealing with some kind of intense pain or any health issue, I feel the intensity of that. I am walking my own path right now as well. And just as Amy said, I think it is a path that we will be walking our entire lives. As our environments shift, as our bodies shift, our lives, it is such an intense place to be, right? And my heart goes out to you, right? But it is also this breeding ground for intense transformation, right? Whatever is in front of you right now can bring you into your next step, into your next level. And I truly believe that it would not be in front of you if you weren't able to handle it and move through it. And I would just say one more time that you don't have to do it alone. Find your support team. Find the people in your life who understand you, who support you in a deep way, right? They support what you need, even if they don't understand it. And go find the people that can help you, that can work with you, the people who have experience dealing with whatever you're dealing with, right? Because when we all start moving forward, and it's like a whole new collaboration, that's what I'm seeing. When we collaborate in this way to re-emerge, like to let all of these ancient teachings come back and maybe even blend with what's happening in the modern medical world, right? What would that look like if we could just let these things blend together and interweave and build off of one another? And so I just encourage you to find that support, to give yourself so much love, and to remember that you are fully capable of working through whatever is in front of you. And so as always, please reach out if you need any extra support, and you can join that workshop. And, this is a heavier topic to speak to, but I found so many people in our community, they need this support. I wish I had this conversation before I went into, to go have a natural childbirth, or work with, balancing my thyroid naturally. That's where I'm at right now. And so we all have our journeys, and we can do this together. And thank you so much for being here. And I truly honor you, and I honor your body and the wisdom and the deep knowing that you have. And my wish for you is that you find your own path to healing, however that looks. And so I wish you all the best on your own path to healing, and that somewhere along that path, you can find more vibrancy, more peace, and more community, and more love.
Thanks for listening to Nectar. Go to stacymaney.com and subscribe to get show updates, opportunities to go deeper, and inspiration sent straight to your inbox.